Hello, this is a tutorial on how to use the CIPHi conference registration and finance tool created by Cameron Wheel. So this tool goes through the budgeting aspects of conference planning, as well as setting registration prices, as well as sponsorship prices, and as well as tools for keeping a list of all your delegates and non-delegate information, as well as creating invoices. So I'm going to use the 2013 CIPHi Ontario Conference as a template to go through how the tool is used. So you start with the green conference tabs, and the first one is your conference planning committee. So on this tab, you're going to write down all your various committees, as well as a code you're going to use on other spreadsheets to signify that committee. The spreadsheet is currently set up so you can have 6 committees, which is typical for a typical CIPHi conference. So once you then you want to fill in your event name. So this one I put in CIPHi 2013 CIPHi Ontario Educational Conference. This name will show up on all your other sheets. So whatever you want to be written on your various sheets, this is what you want. The next thing is your taxation. Since taxation varies throughout the country, the sheet is designed to provide various levels of taxation. So put in your taxation type. Note that the current design cannot split up PST and GST. So if you're in a province where you used a PST GST model, put PST GST in this box, as well as the combined rate. Unfortunately, you're unable to split up the various taxations using this tool. As well as a taxation number. So for an HST, the taxation number is noted here. So once you've got that, you're ready to move on to your conference budgeting. So the first thing you need to do is do some estimates on your projected attendance. So this conference, we've projected 200 delegates, and this is a mixture of full-time and as well as daily registrations. Then the number of exhibitors. This is because when we go through the budgeting, there are certain fields that are exhibitor based. We're putting the projected number of exhibitors in here. So for this one, we have 9. Then we've got volunteers, and the reason why the volunteers are put here separately. Volunteers may not be getting a lot of the packages that delegates will be getting, but they will be need to be available for food and other items. So they need to be accounted different in the budgeting as well. And this is just a rough estimate. And then finally, your free delegates. These are individuals that get basically the full package that a delegate has, but not necessarily the income associated with it. Yeah. So if we look at our next step is just to start actually doing our budget. So I'll just zoom in here. In budget planning for either a workshop or a conference, there are 2 types of items. There's fixed and variable pricing. A variable meaning that is delegate dependent, meaning the more delegates you have, the more you have to pay, such as meals. Whereas fixed or unit variable are based on how many units you're actually using. So on this one, for each area there is a set for unit variable as well as delegate variable. The headings here can change. Just make sure that the ones in below the headings are, in this case, unit delegate variable, and under this area they're a unit variable. So you can see here that we have a conference room rental, which is $1,500. We have one unit, so the total is $1,500. This section here is exhibitor based, so these numbers are based on our exhibitor number here. So if you have anything that's based any unit variable or exhibitor variable items, you can put them in this area. Here's an example of a attendance variable. Attendance variable means a total of all your individuals. So this one here, it would be 234. So for their meal package here on Monday, we've got meal. We only have one unit because it's their one meal package per person. If you were doing something where they were getting like 2 drink tickets per person, you would put like a 2 in here for the unit. And you can see our number here is based on our the number of attendance times our per person price. Once again, our promotion and publicity. So for each of the titles, look at the area in brackets carefully, because they'll either have unit/delegate variable, meaning it only accounts for the delegate numbers, attendance, or which will count for all of them, or your or it will have your exhibitors. So the titles here really determine what formulas are driving your costs. In certain things like meals, there's also gratuity on them. So within this gratuity column here, you actually have to go in and put the percentage. Many of these fields, since they are formula driven, you won't actually be able to edit them. So you shouldn't have to worry too much about making mistakes and deleting a wrong column. You just have to keep on going through. So there are various things as you go through with your different areas of the conference. Another good one of unit variable is your speaker gifts. So for this one, we were budgeting $30 and 25 speakers to give us our total. So once again, all the way through, you can keep on looking at whether it's a delegate variable or unit variable. So once you've got this done, you have your budget created. So once you've got your budget, we need to go on to projected non-delegate income. So from our previous budget, you've got our total projected expenses up here, and then you have your breakpoint registration costs, and this is based on that all the delegates that you're attending are going to be full registrations, which is not necessarily the case. But what this page here is more just to give you some idea of what your how much non-delegate income you're going to need to actually get to your roughly the break point for registration you want for your early bird registration. So there's only two fields here where you can actually enter values. So it's under your unit cost for your exhibitor booths as well as your sponsorship. So for our conference, we were looking at trying to maintain a registration cost of under $600. So if I change this to $40,000, you can see our break rate point registration goes up. So you basically want to start putting in numbers here till you get roughly to where you want for your early bird. So that gives us, just fine tunes your registration costs. But like depending on your location, some of these variables versus daily versus full registration and early bird versus full registration will vary. So the next thing is to put in some trying to categorize some of those variables to fine tune your pricing a little bit more. So this sheet here will provide you some calculations on what it projects your registration prices should be based on some of the variables you've given. So once again, this is pulled from our budget. We know how many delegates we have, the many paid individuals, as well as the our required income. This is our total expenses minus the non-delegate income that we put in on our previous page. So for this conference, we're projecting that 80% of our registrations will be early bird, 10% full registrations, and we've put a daily registration at 10%. We're also using that 80% of our members, 80% of our individuals attending will be members. And then we started doing premiums. And this is, you have various types of premiums. So you have premiums versus, for non-members, premiums versus for full registration versus daily registration, or sorry, full registration versus early bird registration, and then a premiums associated with daily registration. So for our initial ones, we looked at for our non-members would pay a 15% premium, and full registration would versus early registration would also be a 15% premium, and then daily registration would there would be a 15% premium as well. So for a full registration for a non-member, you're looking at a 30% premium. So based on these assumptions and a few formulas, it calculates out your projected registration prices for the various three various types of registration: your early bird, your full, and your daily registration. This system doesn't necessarily calculate stuff for your retired or student, and depending on your steering committee, you can provide some type of either reduction for those groups or put it at a break even. What this the next box here tells you what the projected income would be based on these registration prices and what your total revenue would be. What this calculated revenue deviation here is, what this is. It's just to make sure. It's just a double check to make sure that your calculated registration revenue is close to what your top number here. So there's only a 0.4% deviation. So now we've got some estimates on what we want our various registration prices to be. The next step is actually to start doing our pricing for our conference. So none of these numbers we see here are carried over to the next screen. This is where your steering committee actually uses a potential guide and then creates their numbers, and you want to so you potentially round it off or slightly alter just to meet the needs of your conference. So this is an important screen because it will be used to drive all the various other screens coming up. So you want to take your time to enter information on the screen. So first you want to enter all your various registration types. So we've got your early bird, your full. We've decided on this conference that we're looking at differential daily registration depending on the day. So you can see there's slightly different pricing for the day, but you basically put all the things that you're selling to your delegates and your various prices. Next thing you want to do is determine registration types. Because there's different registration types may have a discount associated with them. Yeah, you want to enter them here because this will also drive your invoice statements for your delegates. So here we have for normal delegates there is no discount. For exhibitors and sponsors, there's a 100% discount, meaning that if you're an exhibitor, you don't necessarily your exhibitor price includes a conference registration. Other conferences, there is in not necessarily this conference, but in other conferences, exhibitors and sponsors may have the chance to buy a second registration at a reduced price. So it's like if they can get one at 50%, you would put a 50% here. Also, for some CIPHi conferences, speakers are provided a daily registration. So for this one, with speakers for daily registration, that there is no cost. There are some cases where a speaker might be speaking for one day but wants to attend a full registration. So to account for this, some conferences provide some type of discount. For this example, we're using a 30% discount for speakers who attend a full registration. Because you want accurate numbers for meals and attendance, you also want to keep track of any volunteers or potentially guests that are attending the conference through your delegate registration. But since these people aren't paying to attend, you put a discount of 100%. The next step is to create your exhibitor sponsor packages. So you want to put down the various descriptions, the cost, how many you have available, and this field is not necessarily required, but it lets you help you do some tracking later on, as well as whether or not they are taxable. As a general rule, exhibitor booths are taxable under an HST rules, whereas sponsor packages are not. But consult an accountant or someone in your executive who has some knowledge of taxation to determine whether or not you need to charge taxes on your various packages, because this is it has some implications on pricing, as well as when it comes to EHST remission. So you want to make sure you get that correct. And so what it does then is calculates based on how many of you have available and the costing, what your projected your total amount of sponsorship income is for the conference. So for this one, we're looking at just over 111,000. So next, we go on to the registration summary, and this page basically gives you the various types of registration, how many member versus non-member registrations, as well as the total, as well as a cross-reference. And I'll go into this here in a second. It also gives you the various delegate registration types. So right now we have it down as one delegate. So the next step is your delegate registration. So whether it's a delegate, an exhibitor, or a sponsor, a speaker, or a guest, you want to keep a number of how many people are attending on the various days. So this is where everyone should be actually registered. So based on our tables before, the first thing you need to do is determine whether it's a delegate, an exhibitor, or a sponsor, or the various types. So for this one, we'll put it first down as a delegate. Your name, organization, telephone number. You need to put whether or not he's a member or not. And as you can see, if we change the number here changes. So the spreadsheet is looking back to see what the actual prices are. And once again, this is your full versus daily registration. So your various registration types. So if you can see here, we've got it when we have it as a delegate. You can see that our total cost is this. As we change our delegate type to, say, exhibitor, you can see that there's a registration discount as well, and then you can see here our price is 0. So let's move this one back again to a delegate. So we've got, this is the pages where we actually invoice their individuals. So we have the individual that's actually being registered, as well as the individual that's being invoiced. Sometimes you'll have one health unit registering numerous people, and it may not be the person that's being invoiced is not necessarily the same individual that's actually attending the conference. So you put the information here. The invoice number is generated depending on based on your specifics. This just has to be a unique number. Once again, our registration type. So we'll actually put this one to a delegate again. A person's name, whether or not they're a CIPHi member or not. So we'll say yes, and early bird registration. So what? So I just want to go move back on to see how this registration summary, one of the features on the registration summary here. So here we put Nick down as a full registration, meaning not an early bird registration. So he's full price. But here we only invoiced him for an early bird. If we go down to the registrations summary, you can see there's some things pop up here. It's so we know that there's an error, meaning that for this one, because there's a early bird registration missing from the delegate registration. It's saying delegate registration. Because there's a full registration being missed from the delegate invoice list, it's telling you to look at the delegate invoice area. This can't necessarily direct you to a specific individual. What it just is, just looking at overall numbers. So if we go back to our delegate income again, and we put this to a full registration where it is where it was supposed to be, we come back to our registration summary and everything's passing. So this is just a cross-reference feature to ensure that you're properly, when it comes to the delegate registration, that you're properly, that everyone here that is attending the conference, there is an invoice for them. So it's just a double check to make sure that that all the income accounted for all the individuals attending the conference. So we've gone through our delegate invoice. The next step is your non-delegate information. So once again, you got an invoice number, contact information, and the first field that you need, it starts to become drop down, is your sponsor or exhibit description. And once again, you do use, I'll zoom in here a bit so you can see it a little better. These are pulled from that original table that we filled out, and as soon as you put them in, it automatically generates your your base cost, as well as the HST total cost. This invoice number here is just copied from the scene across the other screen, as well as other information that you necessarily need to collect. So we've got our delegate and non-delegate income. Next thing we know is that we start getting into some of our summaries. So up here again. So here, this was from our original budget. This was our projected. This was based on our projected numbers for the various delegate types, but our actual prices. So not the projected prices, but the actual prices that you've decided on. This determines what the projected income is, and then as you start putting in income, it actually keeps a track of your actual. It gives you your projected number of delegates, and once again, this is based on the 200 delegates that were attending, broken down into early bird, full, and daily registration, as well as your actual number. And you can see here that we have an actual number under our full delegates, but there's no income. And the reason why is this individual was a exhibitor, so there was no income associated with them. So you have a person attending, but not necessarily income. Here you and then at the final is what is the percentage, meaning, and this is based on income, meaning what your how much of your early bird income have you actually projected, have you collected. The bottom is your exhibitor and sponsorship information. So once again, it gives you your title, and basically none of the information on this sheet is actually your inputting. This is protected. You're actually unable to change any of these fields. These fields are all pulled from other screens. So once again, you've got your early bird bird exhibitor, how many you've sold, how many you have left, and the amount of income they've generated. And you can see for those ones that have zero, and there is a the number turns red. The these zeros don't necessarily mean anything if you actually haven't put a number on how many you have beforehand. But once again, it gives you your total amount of sponsorship money that you've collected, as well as your what your projected is. So and then it gives you a percentage. So you can see that so far we have collected 37% of our projected income. The next thing is your expenses. So every expense should be itemized. So the first thing is determining what program they're in, and this is based on your steering committee. What you did on the first page, it gives you your various program codes, a description, invoice date, deposit date if you've just provided a deposit, the date it was paid, cost automatically calculates your taxes. If you have if you're doing something other than HST or GST, these this text and number will change, as well as whether a gratuity was paid, and gave you your total and any deposits, as well as any outstanding amount. So as you go along, you for every invoice that you get, you put into this field here. Moves us over to our expense summary now, and so our expenses are broken down by again by program areas. So you can see the program registration committee had projected to spend just over 11,000. So far, they've spent just under 1,000. So they've spent approximately 9% of their budget. So as this goes through, you can see by program by committee what percentage of their budget they've completed. So the next thing is your balance sheet, and this is something the accountants are interested in. It gives you some details on some various aspects of your conference financing. So first, you have your amount in your checking account, or if money is being held by the CIPHi office and trust, you put those values in the top here. This number here is your accounts receivable from either delegates or sponsors. This amount of money are registrations that have or exhibitors stuff that have come in, but the invoice we haven't received funds from them yet. So they're outstanding funds that we still need to receive. Other assets are under like such as deposits. So this is an expense that you've invoice that you've received, but you've paid a deposit, but you actually haven't paid the full bill. So deposits are classified as an asset, and if you have any outstanding deposits, they'll show up here. Once a invoice has been paid off in full, even if you have if you've paid a deposit, that value actually gets subtracted from this total. Account liabilities. These are invoices that you've received. You may or may not have put a deposit on them, but there's an outstanding amount left. So, but meaning that invoice has not been paid, so the value is here. If you've put a deposit on, provided a deposit, but you don't have a final amount for the costing, the deposit will show here, but you won't get anything within your accounts payable. The next thing is for HST remission. If you don't pay HST in your jurisdiction, this area will not be present. It will only present if you indicate your taxation type as HST. And what it does is puts up the total amount of HST you've collected, the total amount of HST you've paid through your expenses, and the amount of HST that you have to pay back to the government. Other liabilities. Many committees use seed money from CIPHi or other entities to start their conference. So in this case, we had $20,000, which is then which is just inputted into this sheet. It gives us your total liabilities. So the next thing is so right now, and this is very early in it. This balance sheet is more you're going to use wanting more near the end of the conference, but based on our expenses and our income received so far, our net income for our conference is right now sitting at $24,000. So what this total liabilities and equities should equal your total assets. So you can see this number here and this number here will always be the same. And what it is just that and this is just your total of your liabilities as well as your equities. So next thing is your generation of your invoice. So if we go look back on our, and we'll do a exhibitor sponsor invoice first. So if we go back and look at our non-delegate income, we have a invoice number here, and you may if a individual is buying more than one sponsorship package, or you can use the same invoice number, such as we done here with TrainCan. So what you do is you can copy your invoice number from this page and bring it over to your exhibitor sponsor invoice and paste it in here. What it does is it looks up onto that first sheet and determines the contact information associated with that invoice number and puts it down here. Then you'll have to actually do this manually, but put in the quantity and the type of sponsorship the individual has purchased, and you can do more than one, and it gives us your total here, and then provides us information on here. Once again, based on whether certain things include HST. So if we change this to an exhibitor spot, you can see the exhibitor. You can see the price that's changed here. Because an exhibitor we've stated has to pay HST, you now see an HST value here. But if it's something that doesn't necessarily have to pay HST, you'll see the HSTs blank here. The checks payable. This number is driven off your first page, as well as this HST information here as well. So and then you can just print this off to a PDF, and then you have your invoice. The conference name is generated from your front page, but this contact information here, and you'll have to put in for yourself. But most of the other sections in regards to contact information is auto-generated off your delegate income page. Then you have your delegate invoice information, and this once again you search up your we'll go to delegate registration. So we have our invoice number there. We copy and we paste it into here, and it will bring up the contact information for that individual. Once again, this current configuration can't pull off what that individual purchased, so you'll have to go in and put this in yourself. So you put your delegate type, your description, I will have to adjust these there. Let's see. Just do a little quick change here. I think it just needs a bit of editing. But anyway, you put in your quantity type, the type of a delegate, whether they're a CIPHi member or not, and the description. Once again, depending on the type you have. So say if we were doing that, Nick was actually a full speaker full registration. You can see that that the price changed from when it was just a delegate. So that delegate registration type is important. And once again, you can print off and provide the individual an invoice. Hopefully that gives you some indication of the various functionality of this tool. Once again, it's in its initial development. If you find any errors, feel free to actually give me a quick email using the email above at the front here, providing the error, and hopefully I can find ways correct it for you and provide you an updated tool. It is helpful if you provide a screenshot, so I know exactly where you're having the problem. Anyways, hope this helps. If you have any questions, send me an email.